If you're anything like me, you may get to the end of any given day and think to yourself, where did my time actually go? I am determined to answer this question for myself in an attempt to make better routines around how I use my time both for work and for leisure. So I'm going to be tracking my time for the next 2 weeks in 15-minute increments. As part of this, I'm looking to answer the question of how much time am I spending in different areas of my life, where am I wasting time, and how might I build a routine for myself that leans into the amount of time things do actually take me, and when I'm most inclined to do certain things. The first kind of step in this process, though, is actually getting that data and tracking my time for the next 2 weeks, and in order to do this, I am going to use a spreadsheet. Technically, I could do this in my bullet journal or planner, but I don't really like the idea of having to get out the notebook or get out a pen to write this stuff down, especially if I'm tracking every 15 minutes. I pretty much live on my computer, so it's going to be much easier for it to just be digital, and also, if I do it digitally, it can calculate the amount of time for me. In order to do this though, we are going to need a spreadsheet, so let's open up Excel and get one started. As said, I want to track my time in 15-minute increments, so down the left-hand side here is where I'm going to have those increments. So we'll say 12:00 a.m. and then 12:15 a.m., so on and so forth. We can just drag that down on the side so we have all of the different times that we need. It might seem a little bit excessive to do every 15 minutes. It certainly does make our table a fair bit bigger, but it's going to give me much better data in terms of where my time is actually going, compared to if I tried a half-hour breakdown or an hourly breakdown. That doesn't really give you a very accurate representation of how much time things are actually taking. Now, as we've got those times in though, we can start putting in the dates. So that's the 21st of August, the 22nd of August. Currently it's about 12:30, so I can go and put in my data for today up to 12:30. For instance, putting in things like sleep, which went until about 7 a.m. 7:15. Then I had miscellaneous phone time, so we're going to put in phone time. Then I had another period of sleep again, kind of fell back asleep. We're just going to change it to rest, because then at least all of my rest and sleep time can kind of fall under the same category. Shove that in there. And then after that, we had more phone time for about half an hour, shower or morning routine time. And then after that, I was getting ready for a live stream, and then the actual live streaming, which went until 12 o'clock. Notice how I've only gone to 11:45 here, because this block means the period of time that is between 11:45 and the next time bracket being 12. At 12, I was getting ready to film this, and then at 12:15, I started filming. So we can say filming and filming prep. These descriptors might seem a little bit specific or a little bit granular, but I kind of want to keep it that way at the start. If I go through and I decide I don't need them to be quite as specific, that's totally fine, but I would rather have it be too specific and I can kind of generalize later, rather than starting general and wanting the specifics later. Now it is currently 12:30, like 12:30 has just started, so I could fill in the 12:30 block, but what I'm going to do instead is that I'm going to be filling these in after they've happened, so that it's not so much an intention of what I was going to do, but more what I actually got done. As said though, one of the reasons we're using Excel, along with the ease of inputting information, is the fact that we can get it to calculate this time for us. I don't want to have to sit there and calculate every block of time and how much time total I did things, so we can actually just use a formula in Excel to do that for us. On the spreadsheet, every block or cell represents 15 minutes. So any time that I've written live stream in here is actually 15 minutes of live streaming time. So Excel can tell me, if I highlight that 12 blocks of time were spent live streaming, or 12 times 15 minutes, so 3 hours. Again though, I want Excel to do this calculation for me, so I am going to the side of this space, put in the descriptors of things that I want it to calculate automatically. So we just scroll over here. I want it to calculate rest time for me. I want it to calculate live streaming time for me. I want it to calculate filming time for me. As the week goes on, I may decide that there are other descriptors that I want it to calculate for me. For instance, editing time or leisure time or probably my phone use time. So if this is the activity, I'm actually going to group the time spent into a couple of different things. So we're going to have the total time spent, we're going to have the daily average time spent, and the weekly time spent. This is just done by using a COUNTIF function in Excel, but if that's not really something that you're super comfortable with doing, then it's totally fine. You can use my template if you prefer. I have a link to it in the description box below, both in terms of an Excel version and a Google Sheets version. It's worth noting also that given the formula I've used, the total is accurate as to how much data you filled in, but the weekly and daily averages aren't going to be accurate until you've got a complete 2 weeks of data. So I need to wait until I've actually got all of those in before I can see how my daily and weekly averages are actually looking. At this point here though, we are actually getting towards the 12:45 mark, so I can write in here that we have been filming, and that's just going to automatically update the calculations that we had at the top of the page here. So we can say, hey, for half an hour, I have been filming. At the moment, the daily and weekly totals aren't quite right, but they will update as we go through. I have actually done this before earlier this year. I tracked my time for 2 weeks then as well, and it was really useful, except for the fact that life at that time wasn't as typical as it would usually be. So some of the things that I put on my time log were not necessarily the kind of things that I do on a regular basis. The next 2 weeks though, they're going to be a bit more usual in terms of my schedule, so I'm hoping to get some really good data out of that. I'm very interested to see the data that comes out of this experiment because I know that I have a little bit of time blindness. I don't really know how long things actually take me, so having kind of concrete proof as to how long I spend on things is going to be really valuable. As said, my plan is to use it to, 1, get a better kind of understanding of the length of time I spend on things, 2, see where my time is going, both in terms of kind of productive time and wasted time. And 3, I'm planning on using it to make myself a kind of ideal weekly schedule or weekly template that I can use for both work and leisure time. I'm not so good with boundaries, and I think that this is really going to help me set those by setting up that weekly timetable. I would love to know, are you going to join me in this experiment? Do you think it would be useful to track your time as well? If you want to track time in the way that I'm doing with that Excel or Google Sheet template, it is linked in the description box. I'm going to be doing a 1-week check-in to see what kind of data we've collected at that point, so make sure that you're subscribed so that you don't miss out, and until next time, bye!